the year, Patrick Willis gets inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We shall wait. In the meantime, let's get to Matt Barrows of The Athletic doing a hell of a job, pardon me, covering the 49ers here. And Isaiah Oliver, his latest piece about Isaiah Oliver, and that's somebody we highlighted yesterday. So, Matty B, good morning. Great work there. And Isaiah Oliver, now I noticed that Ambry Thomas was on the injury report. Shanahan brought up his knee injury. Was that the reason why Oliver got a crack in the second half? Or did Steve Wilkes make an adjustment saying, I need to go to a more physical nickelback? And Isaiah Oliver, what was the deal there?
Yeah, I think it was the first one. I mean, back in week one, they started out the game with Diamador Lenore at nickel cornerback and Ambry Thomas on the outside. And then they made a switch at halftime. And it seemed like that was going to be the plan for this game as well, the Rams game. But Thomas got hurt early on, which meant that Lenore had to, go back out to the outside. And they sent Oliver in, and I think he just got better and better as the game went on. And I don't know the psychology of him, but I just think that he got more and more confident. And the more confident he got, the faster he played. He was just reacting, and he basically turned into the guy that they thought that they were getting when they signed him in free agency back in March. And that was sort of a big question mark, sort of a late kind of hiccup to this roster when Shanahan mid-August said, "Oh no, Isaiah Oliver has not wrapped up that his starting nickel spot. We're still looking at various configurations." And we were like, I don't know, two weeks from the start of the regular season, and they were still kind of experimenting with different configurations. So it kind of threw everybody for a loop. I asked Oliver on Sunday after the game, what he thought it was that was preventing him from really seizing the job, right. And he said, "I don't know. He's trying to figure it out himself." But like I said, the bottom line is that he was playing up to the speed of the defense and to a speed that he perhaps wasn't reaching prior to that point.
Yeah, and secondary clearly needed that bolster, so it was really nice to see. First half, I think the most alarming thing for 49er fans, it wasn't pass rush or even secondary. It was like, oh my gosh, Ayuk's on the ground multiple times, and it looks like he's writhing in pain. What exactly is the injury right now for Brandon Ayuk, and where do you think he's at in terms of playing in 48 hours?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, and we're going to find that out later today. Shanahan talked to the media like he always does on Monday, but he talked earlier, and the players had the day off, so the full kind of medical update that he usually gives on Monday was not available. It's just a messed up week. The fact that Ayuk kept coming back into the game suggests that there was no fracture or anything like that. He was definitely checked out in the medical tent. So I think the question is, it seems like an injury that if this game were on a Sunday, he'd be able to play. With the Thursday start, it makes it questionable. And they did an estimated practice report yesterday. They didn't practice, but they still have to file a report, and they estimated that he wouldn't have practiced. So it's a big question mark, and I think Ronnie Bell goes into that spot if Ayuk isn't there, and we all saw what he could do in the preseason. He hasn't been targeted yet in the regular season, right. So it'll be a case of next guy having to step up. I mean, I really think that they like what Ronnie Bell is made of, and he seems like a guy that could rise to the occasion on national television. But it kind of makes it a bit of an interesting storyline going into this game.
Yeah, it could mean more George Kittle in this game. I know George Kittle's been a little quiet in the past game, but that's due to the plethora of options the 49ers have on offense, no doubt about that. Shanahan, there was an interesting question. We'll get to Brock Purdy. Matt Barrows here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. Matt Barrows of The Athletic. We'll get to Brock Purdy in a second here, but there was an interesting question posed to Shanahan yesterday during that conference call. Somebody asked Shanahan, how's he gotten better as a coach? And I think so far this year, I've seen Shanahan in certain situations be a little more aggressive. And in the first half Sunday against the Rams, first drive against the Pittsburgh Steelers, going forward on fourth down, the 57-yard field goal attempt for Jake Moody to have the gall to go for that field goal attempt, and Jake Moody making it the second longest field goal in franchise history. What have you seen from Shanahan that has made him better from the season ago? Or is it too premature to even go to go that route, Matt?
Well, I just think that the situation of the Rams game kind of prompted the more aggressive moves there. I mean, he was watching the Rams go up and down the field and not get stopped. And he knew that Matt Stafford, he's a big Matt Stafford fan, obviously, and Stafford was playing at the top of his game. I mean, this is coming out of the Seahawks game. It was basically for the Rams, that was basically one full game. The second half of the Seahawks and the first half of the 49ers, they were on a roll. They were in a rhythm. So I think that Shanahan saw that, and he knew that the Rams had won the toss to begin the game and were going to get the ball back to begin the third quarter, and he realized, okay, we've got to get all the points that we can because this Rams offense is unstoppable at this point. So I think that accounts for the more aggressive move at the end of the first half and very much a non-Shanahan move because you're right. His usual play there is to be a little bit more conservative at the end of a first half. I just think he realized, okay, points are going to be at a premium. And now, of course, the defense did make the necessary adjustments. And, you got to give credit to Steve Wilks for dialing up all the right things there. The question is, okay, why weren't you doing that at the beginning of the game? If you knew Stafford was in just in an elite rhythm, why give the cushion that you were giving to these Rams receivers, which disappeared in the second half? But that seems like an adjustment you could have made even earlier than that.
Surveying the landscape of the NFL after seeing all of the performances, feels like quarterback play in general is down. Feels like the rosters aren't as great league-wide in comparison to the Niners. Boy, this feels like it's up for grabs this year, doesn't it? I know it's early and things can change, but, man, they feel like they've got as good of a shot as they ever had to really get that number one seed in the NFC and to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, the AFC has been, the conference that's teeming with talent the last few years, and you're right. I think it's those AFC teams that are wobbly. The Bills, the Jets obviously just suffered a huge blow right as the season began. The Chiefs have been a bit wobbly, especially without Kelsey in Week 1. But the three top NFC teams that you expected to be the three top teams, the 49ers, the Cowboys, and the Eagles, they all look really good. And Week 5 is going to be very interesting. I still think that the Eagles are the team to beat. I think Jalen Hurts is, setting himself up for an MVP-like season. Mm-hmm. So as far as winning the Super Bowl might be easier than it's been in years past, but I think reaching the Super Bowl might be just as tough as it's always been.
No doubt. Matt Barrows here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. After scanning the internet, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of people talk about Brock Purdy's overthrows or Nick Bosa's lack of sacks. Who aren't we talking about that had a solid performance Sunday against the LA Rams? Because I got a couple candidates as well. Isaiah Oliver was highlighted. But who is somebody you saw that nobody's talking about that said, oh, wow, this guy stepped up against the Rams?
Yeah, Juwan Jennings would be my pick on offense. He was just a menace as a blocker, like he always is. But you see those long running plays, and it's always due to a wide receiver making big blocks somewhere. Obviously, the one in Week 1 involved Ayuk and Ray McLeod. The long McCaffrey run, the 51-yarder down the left side, involved Kittle and Juwan Jennings, just making great around the line of scrimmage blocks. And that's the difference with Juwan Jennings. He's not the guy making the block on the 185-pound cornerback deep down the field. He's making blocks at the line of scrimmage, on linebackers and defensive ends and stuff like that. So he was good. He had a big, back shoulder catch, and I give Brock Purdy credit for those. He had the back shoulder throw to Ayuk for a touchdown in Pittsburgh. He had the one down the sideline, 31 yards for Juwan Jennings. He's putting it in the right spot. He's trusting those guys to outmuscle the DB for those balls. And when it involves Juwan Jennings, you can pretty much rely on him outmuscling that guy. So I thought that he had a great game. in a very kind of Juwan Jennings-like setting where he's getting physical with those Rams defensive backs.
Was there anything up with Eric Armstead? I was at the game, Matt, and I noticed him running off the field. It seemed like he was compromised with something. Maybe he was fatigued. I have no idea. Eric Armstead, how was he feeling after the game? Any concerns there with him?
I didn't talk to Eric Armstead. I don't know. I mean, I thought that Armstead might have been the best defensive lineman in the Pittsburgh game. Mm-hmm. And then none of the defensive linemen really stood out in the Rams game. Obviously, Bosa was starting to hit home at the end there, but I know everybody is wondering what happened to this elite defensive line. I don't think anything happened. I just think that the Rams were not holding on to the ball at all. I mean, Stafford was dropping back, planting that foot, and firing. He knew exactly where he was going with the ball. It was very simple for him. So I don't know if the Steelers' steel curtain defense of the late 70s would have gotten there. It just wasn't enough time for any human being to really disrupt the quarterback. And then once the coverages tightened up, once the blitzes started happening, that's when Stafford started to get rattled and wasn't as comfortable. So I just don't think anything really happened to that defensive line. It's the same line in Pittsburgh. It's just a different offense, a different quarterback. You're going from 35-year-old Matt Stafford, right, or you're going from second-year player Kenny Pickett to 35-year-old Matt Stafford. I think that accounts for the big difference in the two games.
All right, quick turnaround for you, quick turnaround for everybody. Thursday Night Football against the New York Giants, who are desperate. They had to rally, fight tooth and nail with the Arizona Cardinals, rally and outscore them 31-8 in the second half. Matt Barrows will continue to read your work. Good stuff with the Isaiah Oliver article. We gave him a game ball yesterday because I thought he was that good in the second half. Matt, good stuff as always. Thanks for the time.
Anytime, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Matt.
Matt Barrows from The Athletic here on the Morning Roast.
What do you think happened there? They signed this guy from Atlanta.